Welcome to another daily episode of SAP Analytics Cloud, and this time we will continue our journey in regards to the value driver tree. So remember last time we created a quick value driver tree based on our household expenses. This time we want to include our salaries, we want to summarize the income, we want to show if we're saving money or losing money over the period of the year, and we want to show what the impact could be if, for example, something like the fuel cost goes up, such as like a 10% increase in the fuel price. What does it mean for our overall household budget? So let's take a look at the model that we created last time. So here's the account dimension from the model. So if we want to basically show income and summarize it, we need a few new accounts. So you can see I added 2 incomes. So let's assume we have 2 salaries. We summarize the income as well as an aggregated note. And then we're going to have a new note where we actually then aggregate the income and the expenses together. So we're going to then quickly change the hierarchy so that our expenses actually roll up to, in this case, the account savings. So now we're going to save the changes, and then we can go to the savings account and add the formula. So in our case, we simply take the income, subtract the expenses. That is basically what we're going to do here. So we save the changes, and then remember we talked about adding details around the fuel price and the fuel consumption. So we're going to need a few additional accounts for that as well. Right now, we simply have one line item for the car fuel as a cost, but we want to see how the impact would be in case the gas price goes up. So we're going to add a few accounts, one for the fuel price, one for the consumption, and then we're also going to need an account for the price change. So we quickly add the last item here for the fuel price change, and now we have all the elements that we need to include this as part of our value driver tree and show the impact of an increase in prices. We do get a message that we now have an account that has data but is actually a parent node. We will take care of that in a few seconds and actually delete the data from the model, because now the car fuel is actually becoming a formula. So we can go in now and say the overall car fuel cost is basically the price multiplied by the overall consumption. We're also adding a quick exception aggregation for the fuel price. We want to see the average across all the months, so we quickly configure that as part of our model. And we're going to do a few things such as decimals and kind of like the scale configurations. So now we're ready to go. We saved all the changes as part of our model. So what we're now going to do is we remove the data for the car fuel because we don't need the data anymore because we're actually calculating it now. So we're going to go explicitly in and we delete the data for one account in our model. And then we're going to load new information for things like a gas price and the fuel consumption so that we can actually do the calculations. So here's the raw spreadsheet for the information. And we're going to upload the information for the new accounts. So we quickly map the items from our spreadsheet to the elements of the model. We make sure we append the information to the data set. And we then finalize the loading of the data into our model. So with the model now finished with all the changes and the new data, we're going to go and actually create a new value driver tray. So we're going to start the time and model information, and we're going to go to the calculation view. In our case, we can generate the complete value driver tray based on our model. So all what we really need to do is to actually use the generate option and simply then have the system generate the value driver tree. We will take the car expenses around the fuel price out for now because we're going to add those elements manually and we're going to create this as a growth driver scenario. So here we have now the generated value driver tree, and we can see all the income and expenses as we model them. And we can now basically start adding the details for the car fuel part. So we're going to add the individual items, so the fuel consumption, the fuel price, and the increase, so basically the change factor. So we add them individually as notes, and we're then going to point them to the account ID in our model. So as you can see, we start by adding the fuel consumption. And based on the model, how we defined it, you can see as soon as we pick the account, it basically goes and links itself to the parent ID. So we're going to do the same thing for the fuel price and for the change. And now we need to start making the configuration so that we use the growth driver. So the fuel price is becoming a year-over-year node. So basically it will leverage a growth driver and then show the impact. So we're going to configure it to do the calculation on the details. The base is our fuel price, and the driver in our case will be the fuel price change. And in our case, the result will basically go into the account ID for the fuel price. So we can see now the fuel price has two links, but we will address that as part of the consumption view for the value driver tray. We can easily break that link and correct that. So we generate the complete consumption view based on what we have as part of the calculation. And then we can simply break that linkage between the fuel price change and the node car fuel. So now we have everything as we would like to see it. So we have the consumption and the price change as an option. We'll just do a quick formatting and configure the node width. And then we're going to set up a new story and leverage our value driver tray. So we're setting up a brand new story. We use a canvas page. We're adding the value driver tree that we created. We resize the overall widget. We can see the complete value driver tray, and we can start zooming into the details. So here we have all the items as we configured. And as you can see, we have the savings now, the income, and the cost. And so let's see what a change in fuel price would actually mean for our expenses. So what would happen, for example, if the fuel price goes up by 10%? So what we need to do in our case, because we do the calculation on a monthly base, in our case, that would mean we're adding basically 120% for the complete year. So 1.2, we calculated then. So we open up the simulation panel and we run the calculation. So we can see the fuel price went up by 10%. And our car fuel expenses went up by nearly $350 in the year. We can easily see now the impact a small change has on our complete household budget. I want to say thank you for watching and listening.